I held a frozen alien in my hands in Antarctica, and what it revealed about Jesus shattered everything the church never told me. This wasn't just first contact. It was a warning about the war happening inside your soul right now. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about a vibrational truth buried under 2,000 years of control and fear. That crystalline being, pulsing with blue light in the ice, told me Christ wasn't just a man. He was a frequency, a bridge between the frozen mind and the burning heart. And they've hidden this from you because once you understand it, the systems that feed on your guilt lose all power. This will set you free, but it will cost you every comfortable lie you've been told. If you're ready to face what Antarctica's ice kept locked until now, subscribe and hit the bell, because what happened to me in that frozen tunnel will crack open your understanding of faith, power, and why you felt so distant from God. Now let me tell you how a broken soldier found the truth in absolute zero. Ethan Ward was 45 years old, ex-military, divorced, no kids, living alone at a decommissioned research station in Antarctica because nobody else wanted the job, and because he didn't want to be around people anymore. The wind cut through the air like blades, always did down here, reminded him of screaming, of things he didn't want to remember but couldn't forget. He'd stopped praying 7 years ago, right after his last tour, right after he realized God wasn't listening. Or worse, was listening and didn't care. The nights stretched forever, white silence pressing down on everything. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your own thoughts too loud. The kind that shows you exactly what you've been running from. Ethan was good at running. He'd been doing it his whole life. That Thursday started like any other. Check the generators. Monitor the weather systems. Make sure nothing was freezing that shouldn't be freezing. Eat something from a can. Sleep. Repeat. Routine was safe. Routine meant no surprises. But at 2:47 a.m., the motion detector started beeping. Ethan sat up in his bunk, heart already racing, old combat instincts kicking in. Nothing moved out here. Nothing except wind and snow. The station had been abandoned for 3 years before he took the contract. No animals, no people, nothing. He grabbed his thermal gear and the pistol he kept under his pillow. Not that a gun would help against the cold if something went wrong, but it made him feel better. The detector showed heat. Anomalous heat signature, underground. Section D, the old excavation tunnels they dug back in the 90s looking for ice core samples. Nobody had been down there in years. Ethan's hands shook as he suited up. Not from cold, from something else. Something that felt like fear but older, deeper. He took the service elevator down. The metal groaned. Lights flickered. Everything down here felt wrong, like the earth itself was holding its breath. The tunnel opened into a chamber he'd only seen once before, during his orientation. A big empty space with old equipment covered in frost, drilling machines that looked like sleeping monsters. And in the center, Ethan stopped breathing. There was light, blue light, pulsing, coming from inside a block of ice the size of a small car. He moved closer, gun raised, even though he knew that was stupid. What was he going to shoot? Ice? But then he saw it. Inside the ice, a shape. Humanoid, tall, slender, skin that looked translucent, crystalline, and eyes. Dear God, the eyes. They were open, looking at him. Ethan stumbled backward, nearly falling. His breath came in sharp gasps. This wasn't possible. This wasn't. The lights in the chamber flickered. The old generator somewhere started humming. Heat began flowing through pipes that hadn't worked in years, and the ice started melting. No, Ethan whispered. No, no, no. A crack appeared, then another. Water dripped onto the floor, steaming in the cold air. And then a voice, not out loud, in his head, soft, calm, like someone whispering directly into his thoughts. Do not be afraid. Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger. His whole body was shaking now. The time kept me here until you were ready to believe again. I'm not, I don't. You stopped praying because you thought he abandoned you. But he never left, Ethan. You closed the door. The ice cracked wider. The being inside shifted, moved. It was real. This was actually happening. Ethan felt something inside him break. Something that had been frozen for 7 years, maybe longer. He lowered the gun. His hands were shaking so bad he could barely hold it anyway. The ice continued to melt. The blue light grew brighter. And Ethan Ward, ex-soldier, broken man, guy who stopped believing in anything, stood there watching the impossible become real. He didn't know it yet, But his life had just changed forever, because some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. And the frozen man was about to learn that the coldest prison isn't made of ice. It's made of fear. And fear, unlike ice, melts from the inside out. The figure moved beneath the melting ice. Slow, deliberate, like it was waking from a very long sleep. Ethan backed up until his shoulders hit the wall. The gun was still in his hand, but pointing at the floor now. Useless. Everything he'd learned in combat felt useless here. "Who are you?" he whispered. The answer came as thought, not sound. A messenger, not an enemy. The creature's skin caught the light. Not like human skin, more like crystal, translucent. You could almost see through it, and underneath, light, moving, pulsing, like there was a star inside it. No threat in those eyes, just calm. The kind of calm Ethan hadn't felt in years. On the wall behind the ice block, symbols started glowing. Triangular, geometric. They'd been carved there decades ago, part of some research project nobody understood. Now they pulsed in rhythm with the being's breathing. If it was breathing, Ethan's mind flooded with images. Stars, crosses, human hands reaching up, light pouring down. It was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying. The ice gave way completely. Water rushed across the floor. Steam rose in clouds. The being stepped out, fell to its knees, exhausted. Without thinking, Ethan moved forward, caught it before it hit the ground. The creature was light, too light, like holding air, and warm. Heat radiated from its body, not burning, comforting, the kind of warmth that makes you realize how cold you've been. "You freed me," the voice said in his mind. "Now you will free yourself." "I don't understand." "You will." Ethan half carried, half dragged the being toward the lab. The old research station had medical equipment, basic stuff. He didn't know if any of it would work on whatever this was, but he had to try. The being's eyes never left him, studying, understanding things Ethan wasn't saying out loud. "You carry great pain," it said. Ethan didn't answer. Couldn't. "The war, the things you saw, the things you did. You think God punished you by leaving. Stop." Ethan's voice cracked. "Stop reading my mind." "I'm not reading. You're broadcasting. Pain always does." They reached the lab. Ethan set the creature down on an exam table. Up close, he could see more details. The being had no hair, skin smooth as glass, fingers longer than human fingers, and those eyes, enormous, almond-shaped, filled with something that looked like compassion. "What are you?" Ethan asked again. "A traveler, a teacher, a friend if you allow it." "From where?" "From a place where consciousness evolved differently than here, where love became science, where fear was understood and transformed." The words didn't make sense, but somehow they felt true. Ethan found thermal blankets, wrapped them around the being. It smiled. At least he thought it was a smile. "You're kind," it said, "even through your pain. That's why I was preserved for you." "Preserved? What does that mean?" "This ice, this place, it was arranged. Not by chance, not by accident. You needed to find me, and I needed to be found." Ethan sat down hard in a chair. His legs couldn't hold him anymore. "This is insane." "I'm going insane. You're waking up." It feels the same at first. The being lifted one hand. The triangular symbol appeared in the air between them, made of light, floating. "Beautiful. Do you know what this means?" it asked. Ethan shook his head. "Unity, the three becoming one, body, mind, spirit, earth, humanity, heaven. It's the oldest truth, the one your species keeps forgetting." Images flooded Ethan's mind again. Jesus, standing on a mountain, hands raised, light pouring from his palms. Not metaphorical light, real light, energy, power. "He was one of us," the being said gently. "Not in body, in consciousness. He came from the same source we all come from, the same field of infinite love." "Jesus was an alien?" Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "Jesus was divine consciousness taking human form. We are divine consciousness taking different forms. Same source, different expressions." The room was warming up. The generators were working now. Everything seemed to be responding to the being's presence. "You've been cold for so long, Ethan. Cold outside, cold inside, frozen in guilt and shame and fear." Tears started running down Ethan's face. He couldn't stop them. "But ice melts," the being continued. "It always does. given enough warmth, enough love, enough truth. I don't know how to believe anymore. You're believing right now. You're just afraid to admit it. The being reached out, touched Ethan's chest, right over his heart. Heat spread through him. Real, physical, undeniable. The war is over, soldier. The battle was never out there. It was always in here. And you just took the first step toward peace. Ethan broke, completely. Sobbed like he hadn't sobbed since he was a child. And the crystalline being held him, radiated warmth, didn't judge, didn't speak, just stayed present while a broken man finally started to melt. Ethan spent the next 3 hours making sure the being was stable, checking vitals, or what he thought might be vitals, heart rate, if it had a heart, temperature, responsiveness. Everything seemed okay, better than okay. The creature was recovering fast, too fast for something that had been frozen for God knows how long. While he worked, memories kept surfacing, uninvited, unwanted, faces of men he'd served with, names he tried to forget, sounds of gunfire echoing in his skull, screams, always screams. The being watched him, silent, patient. Ethan tried to focus on the equipment, the readings, anything but the war playing on repeat in his head. "Stop looking at me like that," he said finally. "Like what? Like you can see everything I'm thinking." "I can, but I'm not judging what I see." Ethan slammed a drawer shut. "Then what are you doing?" "Understanding." The word hit harder than it should have. Understanding. When was the last time someone actually understood? When was the last time anyone looked at him and saw past the walls? Never. That's when. "The pain you carry," the being said softly. "It's like ice around your heart. You think it protects you, but it's slowly killing you instead." "I'm fine." "You haven't been fine since the day you watched your friend die in your arms." Ethan froze. His hands gripped the edge of the table. "Don't." "Marcus, that was his name." "I said don't." "He asked you to pray for him, and you did. But God didn't save him, so you decided God didn't exist." Ethan turned around, anger flashing hot through the cold. "You don't know anything about that. I know you blamed yourself. I know you stopped believing because if God was real and didn't save Marcus, then God must hate you, must think you deserve to suffer. Get out of my head." "I'm not in your head, Ethan. Your heart is screaming so loud the whole universe can hear it." The anger collapsed, left him hollow. He sat down, put his face in his hands. "I prayed," he whispered. "I prayed harder than I ever prayed in my life. Begged God to save him. Promised I'd do anything, be anything. Just let him live. And when Marcus died, you thought God rejected you, didn't he?" The being moved slowly, stood beside Ethan, placed a hand on his shoulder. "God never stopped listening. You stopped hearing. That's not. Pain is loud, Ethan. Louder than any prayer. When Marcus died, your pain became a wall between you and everything else, including the voice that was still trying to reach you." Ethan looked up, tears streaming down his face again. Why didn't he save Marcus? Because Marcus's journey ended that day, not as punishment, not as abandonment. His soul completed what it came to do. That's bullshit. Is it, or is it just harder to accept than the story you've been telling yourself? The being knelt down, eye level now. "You think God plays favorites, saves some, and abandons others. But that's not how it works. Every soul chooses its path. Every life has a beginning and an end. The divine doesn't interfere. It experiences through you, through Marcus, through everyone. So Marcus died for nothing. Marcus died completing his purpose, and his death awakened something in you, something that's been dormant, waiting, until this moment, until you were ready. Ready for what? To stop running, to face the pain instead of freezing it, to understand that the broken places are where the light gets in." The words resonated, deep, like they'd been waiting inside him his whole life. "You're not here by accident," the being continued. "You took this job in Antarctica because you wanted to disappear, wanted to be as cold outside as you felt inside, wanted to freeze until you stopped feeling anything." Ethan couldn't deny it. "But the ice preserved me for you, and now the warmth begins." "I don't know how to believe again." "You don't have to believe. You just have to stop resisting." A strange warmth moved through the room, through him, not from the generators, from something else. The being smiled. "God never left you, Ethan. You locked yourself away from him, built walls of guilt and shame and anger. But walls can come down. Ice can melt. How? By allowing yourself to feel, really feel. Not the anger, not the pain, but what's underneath all of that. What's underneath? Love. The love you still have for Marcus, for the life you wished you could have saved, for yourself, even though you've spent years pretending you don't deserve it. Ethan felt something crack inside, deep down, where he'd been frozen longest. Tears came again, but different this time. Not bitter, not angry. Releasing. The being stayed close, radiated warmth, didn't try to fix anything, just held space while Ethan finally let himself feel. The war is over, it whispered. You can lay down your weapon now. You can come home. And for the first time in 7 years, Ethan Ward felt like maybe, just maybe, he could. The coldest prisons aren't made of ice or iron. They're made of the stories we tell ourselves about why we deserve to suffer. And Ethan's story was finally starting to change. The being asked Ethan to turn off the lights around midnight. Ethan hesitated. Something about darkness in this place made his skin crawl. Too many night missions. Too many things waiting in shadows. Trust me, the voice said gently. So he did. Hit the switch. Plunged the lab into complete darkness. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then the being began to glow. Soft at first. Blue light emanating from beneath its skin. Growing brighter. Pulsing. Like a heartbeat made of starlight. Ethan stepped back, watching. Mesmerized. The light intensified. Symbols appeared in the air around them. Not the triangular ones from before. Different ones. Ancient. Moving. Alive. And then he saw them. Visions, not in his imagination. Right there, projected in the space between them. Planets. Dozens of them. Spinning slowly. Some green and blue like Earth. Others purple. Gold. Colors he didn't have names for. Then people. Humans. But not quite. Different faces. Different builds. All looking up at the same sky. All reaching toward the same light. You're seeing memory, the being explained. Collective memory. The story of consciousness across the cosmos. The images shifted, showed a figure, robed, walking among crowds, healing, teaching, touching people with hands that glowed. Ethan's breath caught. Jesus, he whispered. Yes. The figure turned, looked directly at them, smiled, and Ethan felt it, actual warmth radiating from a 2,000-year-old memory. He came from the same source we all come from, the being said. A field of consciousness where love isn't emotion, it's law, fundamental force, like gravity, like light. So he was one of you, an alien. He was consciousness taking human form. We are consciousness taking different forms. Same source, different expressions. He came to show humanity what's possible when you operate from love instead of fear. The vision changed, showed Jesus raising someone from death. But this time, Ethan could see what was really happening. Energy flowing, frequency shifting, matter reorganizing itself in response to absolute certainty. This is what your churches got wrong, the being continued. They made him special, separate, the only one who could do these things. But that wasn't his message. What was his message? That you can do this too, all of you. The kingdom of heaven isn't a place you go when you die. It's a frequency you access right now, through love, through faith, through absolute knowing. The images showed more. Jesus teaching on mountains, breaking bread, washing feet. And every act, every single one, pulsed with the same blue light the being radiated now. He wasn't teaching religion, the voice said. He was teaching technology, how to use consciousness to shape reality, how to heal, how to manifest, how to literally move mountains with the power of absolute faith. Ethan sank to his knees, overwhelmed. Why? Why would you tell me this? Because humanity is ready. Not all of you, but enough. The ones like you, who've been broken open, who've questioned everything, who've felt abandoned by God and survived anyway. I don't feel ready. You freed me from the ice. That wasn't accident. That was readiness. The visions shifted again, this time showing war. Ethan's war, his unit, the firefight where Marcus died. He wanted to look away. Couldn't. Watch, the being said gently. The scene played out, bullets flying, Marcus falling, Ethan catching him, praying desperately. But this time, he saw something he'd missed before. Light, surrounding them, even in that hell, even in that moment. Light pulsing, holding, not preventing, but present. God didn't abandon you that day, the being said. The divine was there, in your hands holding Marcus, in your tears, in your love for him. That was God. That was the Christ consciousness flowing through you. But Marcus died. Yes, because his journey ended. But the love you felt, that was eternal. That was real. And it's still connecting you to him now. Ethan felt his chest expanding, like something locked inside was finally opening. The visions faded. The being's glow softened. The room felt different, warmer, sacred. Jesus wasn't the only Christ, the being said. He was the first to show humanity what the Christ consciousness looks like. But it lives in everyone, dormant, waiting, until someone chooses love over fear, chooses faith over doubt, chooses to believe they're worthy of miracles. I'm not worthy. That's the lie that keeps you frozen. Worthiness isn't earned, Ethan. It's inherent. You were born worthy. Every soul is. The divine doesn't rank, doesn't judge, doesn't withhold love based on performance. Tears again, always tears now. But these felt different, cleansing, like snow melting into streams. The cross wasn't about punishment, the being continued. It was about transformation, death of ego, resurrection of truth. Jesus showed you the pattern: die to who you think you are, rise as who you've always been. Ethan looked up at the glowing figure. Who have I always been? Divine, powerful, loved, connected to source, capable of miracles. Everything Jesus was, you are. You just forgot. The being placed both hands on Ethan's head. Heat flooded through him, pure, clean, dissolving years of shame. Now you remember, it whispered. And Ethan did, not with his mind, with something deeper. He remembered what it felt like to be whole. Morning came. Light filtered through the small windows of the station. Gray Antarctic dawn. But Ethan felt different, lighter, like something heavy had been lifted off his chest while he slept. The being was sitting up, stronger now. The crystalline skin seemed more solid, more present. You rested well, it observed. I dreamed, Ethan said. First time in years without nightmares. Because you stopped fighting yourself. Ethan made coffee, offered some to the being. It declined with what looked like amusement. We don't consume matter the same way, but I appreciate the gesture. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Ethan drinking coffee, the being observing the sunrise. Finally, Ethan spoke. Last night you said Jesus came to show us something. What exactly? That religion is a cage, and Christ consciousness is freedom. Ethan set down his cup. Explain that. The being turned to face him fully. Your churches teach that Jesus came to create Christianity, to establish rules, rituals, hierarchies, systems of control. They teach that you're broken, sinful, separated from God, and only through their specific belief system can you be saved. That's what I was taught. It's a lie, not malicious necessarily, but a misunderstanding so profound it's kept humanity enslaved for 2,000 years. Enslaved? To guilt, to fear, to the belief that you're powerless without external salvation, that you need a priest, a building, a book to connect you to the divine, that you're not enough on your own. The words hit hard. True. Jesus didn't come to create religion. The being continued. He came to destroy it, to show you that the kingdom of God isn't in a church, it's inside you, that you don't need an intermediary, that you are, yourself, divine. That sounds like blasphemy, only to those who profit from your powerlessness. Ethan stood, paced, processing. So what was he teaching? Frequency, vibration, the technology of consciousness. He was showing you that thought creates reality, that faith, real faith, not hope or wish, literally reorganizes matter. That love is the highest frequency in the universe and can heal anything. The being projected an image. Jesus standing before a storm, raising his hand, the wind stopping instantly. He wasn't asking God to calm the storm. He was commanding it himself, using the creative power that flows through all consciousness, the same power that flows through you. I can't do that, because you don't believe you can. Jesus said it clearly. These things I do, you will do also. And greater things. Not some of you, not the special ones. All of you. Ethan felt his worldview cracking. Everything he'd been taught, everything he'd believed. The Christ isn't a person, the being said gently. It's a state of consciousness, a frequency. When Jesus said, "I am the way," he wasn't talking about himself as a human. He was talking about the consciousness he embodied: love, unity, oneness with Source. So anyone can be Christ? Everyone already is. You just don't remember. The being stood, walked to the window, looked out at the endless white. Your planet is at a crossroads. The old systems are collapsing. Religion, government, economy, all the structures built on fear and control. They're dying, and humanity is terrified. Are we going to make it? That depends on how many of you wake up, how many remember who you really are, how many choose love over fear. And that's why you're here? I'm here because you called me, not consciously, but your soul did. 7 years ago, when Marcus died and you closed your heart, part of you kept praying, kept asking for answers, kept reaching toward the light even while you told yourself it didn't exist. Ethan felt tears building again. Seemed like all he did lately was cry. That prayer brought you here, to this frozen place, to this moment, because you needed to understand God never left. Jesus never stopped being available. The divine has been waiting patiently for you to stop running and turn around. I don't know how to do this, how to believe differently. You don't have to believe. Just be willing. Willing to consider that everything you were taught might be a distortion, that the truth is simpler and more powerful than you imagined. The being placed a hand over Ethan's heart. The battle you've been fighting, it's not out there. It's in here. Fear versus love. Ego versus soul. The false self versus the true self. Every human faces this. Jesus faced it in the desert. You face it every day. How do I choose love when fear feels so real? By understanding that fear is always about the past or future. Love exists only in the present moment. When you're fully here, fully now, fear can't survive. The warmth spread through Ethan's chest again. Real, physical, undeniable. Jesus taught presence, taught surrender, taught trust, not blind faith in a distant God, but knowing, deep knowing, that you're already connected, already whole, already loved. Churches don't teach that. No, because if you knew your own power, you wouldn't need them, wouldn't tithe, wouldn't submit, wouldn't live in fear of judgment, and their entire structure would collapse. That's why they killed him. Not because he claimed to be God, but because he told everyone else they were too. The statement hung in the air. Revolutionary, dangerous, true. Ethan looked at the being, this impossible creature made of light and wisdom. What do I do with this information? You live it. You become it. You stop seeking God out there and start recognizing God in here. And when you do, everything changes. Will you stay? Teach me? For a while. Until you don't need me anymore. Until you remember how to access this knowing on your own. Ethan nodded, felt something settling into place. The soldier was becoming a student, and the lesson was simple. You are not separate from God. You never were. You just forgot. And now, it was time to remember. 3 days passed. 3 days of conversations that rewired Ethan's entire understanding of reality. The being taught him about frequency, about how thoughts create electromagnetic fields, how emotions amplify those fields, how certainty, absolute knowing, collapses quantum possibilities into physical manifestation. It sounded insane, but Ethan was starting to believe it. On the 4th morning, the being made a request. There's a crystal, deep in the ice, below this station. I need you to help me retrieve it. What kind of crystal? Ancient technology, left here intentionally, programmed with frequencies that will help you understand what I'm teaching. Ethan suited up, grabbed equipment. They descended deeper into the tunnels than he'd ever gone before. The walls changed, less ice, more rock. Symbols carved everywhere. The same triangular pattern, repeating. Your scientists found this in 1997, the being explained. They didn't understand what they were looking at, called it archaeological anomaly, sealed it off. What is it really? A library. Energy encoded in crystal matrix. Information from civilizations far older than human history. They reached a chamber, massive, cathedral-like, and in the center, embedded in clear ice, a crystal the size of a man, glowing faintly blue. Ethan's breath caught. That's beautiful. That's truth. Compressed. Waiting. The being approached, placed both hands on the ice. I need you to activate the thermal array. Channel heat to this exact point, but carefully. Too fast and the crystal shatters. Ethan worked the controls. Old Soviet equipment. barely functional, but he managed to get it running. Heat flowed. The ice began to melt. Slowly, carefully. The crystal pulsed, brighter, stronger, and then something happened. The air itself began to vibrate. A tone, low, harmonic, beautiful. Ethan felt it in his bones, in his cells, in his soul. "Do you feel that?" the being asked. "Yes, that's the frequency of Christ consciousness. The exact vibration Jesus maintained while in physical form. It's been preserved here, waiting for humanity to be ready." The crystal fully emerged. The being lifted it carefully, held it between them. Light projected from its facets, and suddenly Ethan saw him, Jesus. Not in vision this time, solid, present, standing right there in the chamber. Ethan fell to his knees. The figure smiled, radiant, loving, real. "Lord," Ethan whispered, but Jesus shook his head. When he spoke, the voice was gentle, amused. "Don't kneel to me, brother. Stand. We're equals. I can't, I'm not. You are. That's what I came to teach. You are made of the same substance as the Father, the same creative force, the same divine essence. When you kneel, you forget this." Ethan stood, shaking, tears streaming. Jesus stepped closer, placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "The religious leaders of my time hated me for this message. They wanted people to kneel, to submit, to believe they were powerless without temple and sacrifice. But that was never the Father's design. What is the Father's design? Co-creation, partnership, souls remembering their divine having human experience, not humans hoping to become divine someday." The being watched, silent, allowing the teaching to unfold. Jesus continued, "Every miracle I performed, I told you afterward. Your faith has made you whole. Not my power, not God's intervention. Your faith, your consciousness, your willingness to believe the impossible into being. But I don't have that kind of faith. You have exactly that kind of faith. You just don't know it yet. Faith isn't hoping something might happen. It's knowing it already has. In the quantum field, all possibilities exist simultaneously. Faith selects which one manifests." Ethan's mind reeled. This was Jesus, but not the meek, mild savior from Sunday school. This was a teacher, a scientist of consciousness. "The cross," Ethan said. What was that really about? Jesus' expression softened. "Death of the false self, resurrection of the true self. I showed humanity the pattern. You have to die to who you think you are to become who you've always been. Die to ego, rise as soul. Die to fear, rise as love. Churches say you died for our sins. I died to show you that death isn't the end, that consciousness continues, that you're eternal. And yes, by demonstrating perfect love, I dissolved the collective pattern of sin." But not through sacrifice, through frequency, by holding the vibration of unconditional love, even in the face of hatred. The chamber filled with warmth. The crystal pulsed brighter. "You're here to remember, Ethan. To wake up, to stop living as a guilty sinner and start living as a divine creator. That's what salvation really means. Not being saved from hell, being saved from the illusion of separation. How do I do that?" Jesus smiled. "You already are. This moment, this conversation, this willingness to question everything you were taught, that's the awakening. That's the resurrection happening in real time." He stepped back. The image began to fade. "Wait," Ethan called out. "I'm not leaving. I'm always here, in your heart, in your breath, in every moment of love you choose. You just have to remember to look." The vision dissolved, but the warmth remained. Ethan stood holding the crystal, changed, forever. The being watched him with patient eyes. "Now you understand," it said, and Ethan did. Faith wasn't belief, it was knowing, and he finally knew. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. His mind was racing. Everything he thought he knew had been dismantled, rebuilt, transformed. He found the being in the observation room, looking out at the stars. "You're troubled," it said without turning. "I need to understand something." "Ask." Ethan sat down, hands clasped, voice quiet. "Why does humanity suffer so much? If God is love, if we're all divine, why all the pain? Why war? Why do we keep destroying each other?" The being turned to face him. "Because you've forgotten who you are, and forgotten people act from fear. Fear creates separation. Separation creates conflict. Conflict creates war. It's more than that. I've seen it. Good people doing terrible things, killing in God's name. How does that happen? You confuse defense with fear, protection with control. You believe you're separate nations, separate religions, separate tribes. So you fight to protect your peace, your way, your truth. Ethan thought about his tours, the orders, the justified violence. We were told we were fighting evil, and the other side was told the same about you. Both believing God was on their side, both certain they were right, both operating from the same frequency, fear disguised as righteousness. The word stung. True. War outside is always reflection of war inside. The being continued. Show me a peaceful human. I'll show you someone who resolved their internal conflict. Show me a nation at war. I'll show you millions of individuals at war with themselves. So it's our fault? Fault implies judgment. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding cause and effect. You are creator beings. What you think, you create. What you feel, you amplify. What you believe, you manifest. The being projected images. Soldiers, countless soldiers across human history. Different uniforms, same fear in their eyes. Every war is the same war. The eternal battle between love and fear, between unity consciousness and separation consciousness, between remembering and forgetting. Ethan watched the images cycle, saw himself among them. I killed people, he said quietly. I told myself it was duty, service, protecting my country, and you believe that. So did they. Everyone fighting believes their cause is just. Their enemy is evil. Their violence is necessary. Are you saying all war is wrong? I'm saying all war is fear, and fear cannot create peace, ever. You cannot bomb your way to love, cannot kill your way to unity, cannot force your way to harmony. Then how do we stop evil people? People who want to hurt others? By understanding that hurt people hurt people, healed people heal people. You don't stop violence with more violence. You stop it by removing the conditions that create it. That sounds naive. Does it? Or does it sound scary because it requires you to take responsibility? To admit that the enemy isn't out there, it's the unhealed fear inside. In you, in them, in everyone. Ethan stood, paced, agitated. So when Marcus died, when terrorists attacked us, we should have just what? Hugged them? You should have asked why. Why do people become terrorists? What pain drives them to violence? What fear makes them willing to die? And then address those root causes instead of just symptoms. That's not how the world works. That's not how your world has worked, but it's how evolved civilizations work. We learned this lesson millennia ago. War is primitive, the solution of consciousness that hasn't awakened yet. The being showed him another vision. A planet, beautiful, peaceful, cities of light. This civilization went through what yours is going through now. Endless war, destruction, near extinction, and then critical mass. Enough souls awakened, chose differently, and everything changed. What did they do? They stopped treating symptoms and healed the disease of separation, of fear, of believing some lives matter more than others. Ethan felt something shifting, old beliefs crumbling. Jesus taught this. Jesus taught that you're all one, all connected, all part of the same divine consciousness. When you hurt another, you hurt yourself. When you heal another, you heal yourself. This isn't philosophy, it's physics. The being returned to the window. Your planet is being given a choice right now. Continue the pattern of fear, separation, war, and face extinction. Or wake up. Remember, choose love and evolve. Which will we choose? That depends on individuals like you, people who've been through war, who know its cost, who carry its scars. You're the ones who can speak truth, who can say, this doesn't work, this never worked, there's another way. And if people don't listen, some won't. They're too invested in fear, too identified with separation. But others will, and that's enough. You don't need everyone to awaken, just enough to shift the collective frequency. Ethan looked out at the stars, countless points of light in infinite darkness. What you're describing, it sounds like fantasy, impossible. So did flying once. So did instant communication across the planet. So did everything that now seems normal. Humanity stands on the edge of its greatest evolution, from fear-based to love-based, from separation to unity, from war to peace. And Jesus is coming back to make this happen. The being smiled. Jesus never left. The Christ consciousness is always available. Every time someone chooses forgiveness over revenge, Christ returns. Every time someone chooses compassion over judgment, Christ returns. Every time love defeats fear, Christ returns. So the second coming is happening right now, in every awakened heart, in every healed wound, in every bridge built instead of wall. Jesus isn't coming back in clouds. He's coming back through you. The statement landed like thunder. Ethan sat back down, overwhelmed. I'm just one person. How can I make a difference? By healing yourself, by choosing love over fear, by being living proof that another way exists. Consciousness is contagious. One light in darkness draws others, always has, always will. The being placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. The war you fought, it taught you what doesn't work. Now you get to teach what does. Not through preaching, through being, through embodying peace so completely that others feel it and want it too. Ethan felt tears coming again, but this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of purpose, understanding, hope. The soldier was becoming a peacemaker, and the war, the real war, was finally ending. Not out there, in here, where all wars begin and where all wars must end. The being asked Ethan to sit, face him directly. Today we work on the deepest healing, the fear you've carried since childhood, before the war, before Marcus, the original wound. Ethan tensed. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Close your eyes. I don't want to. I know. That's why we must. Ethan reluctantly closed his eyes. Immediately memories surfaced, ones he'd buried deep. His father, drunk, angry, the belt, the words that cut deeper than leather. You're worthless. You'll never amount to anything. God doesn't love mistakes like you. 8 years old, believing every word. There it is, the being said softly. The original lie. The first time you believed you weren't worthy of love. Ethan's jaw clenched. He was right. I proved him right. No, you spent your life trying to prove him wrong. Joined the military to be brave, to be worthy, to earn love through service. But you can't earn what you already have. The memories kept coming. The need to be perfect, to never fail, to save everyone because maybe then finally he'd deserve to exist. And then Marcus dying. The ultimate failure. Proof that he was exactly what his father said. Worthless. Feel it. The being instructed. Don't push it away. Don't fight it. Just feel it. It hurts. I know. Feel it anyway. Ethan let the pain rise. The shame. The belief that he was fundamentally broken. Unlovable. Wrong. Tears poured down his face. His chest heaved. Good. Let it move through you. It's been stuck for 37 years. Frozen. Creating every decision you've made. Every relationship you've sabotaged. Every time you pushed away love because you didn't believe you deserved it. I don't deserve it. That's the lie talking. Not truth. Your father was wounded. His father wounded him. Generational pain passed down like inheritance. But it stops with you. Right now. In this moment. The being placed both hands on Ethan's chest. Warmth flooded in. Intense. Overwhelming. I want you to imagine that 8-year-old boy. The one who believed his father. Can you see him? Ethan nodded, eyes still closed. Now I want you to hold him. Adult you. Strong you. The man who survived war in Antarctica and 7 years of frozen hell. Hold that little boy and tell him the truth. I don't know what to say. Yes, you do. Ethan saw himself, the child, small, terrified, crying. He reached out in his mind, pulled the boy close, and spoke words he'd never heard but always needed. You're not broken. You're not worthless. You're loved. Completely. Unconditionally. Just for existing. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove anything. You're enough. You've always been enough. The child in his vision looked up. Hope in those young eyes. Really? Really? God loves you. Not because of what you do. Because of what you are. Divine. Sacred. Worthy. Always have been. Always will be. The warmth intensified, spread through every cell, and something extraordinary happened. The child smiled, then dissolved, integrated, healed. Ethan gasped, opened his eyes. He felt different, lighter, like he'd been carrying a boulder and someone finally lifted it. The wound is closed, the being said. Not forgotten, but no longer controlling you. I feel free. That's what healing feels like. Ethan laughed. Actually laughed. When was the last time he'd done that? Now you understand something crucial. The being continued. Fear is always rooted in childhood wounds. The belief that you're not enough, not safe, not loved. Every adult fear traces back to that original pain. So when I was afraid in combat, you weren't just afraid of dying. You were afraid of being proven worthless, of failing, of confirming what your father said. The war outside triggered the war inside. Ethan's mind raced, connecting dots. And Marcus dying confirmed your deepest fear, that you couldn't save anyone, couldn't be enough, couldn't earn love through heroism. So you shut down completely. If you couldn't be the hero, you'd be nothing. Jesus, Ethan whispered. Yes. Now you understand why he taught about becoming like children. Not naive, not ignorant, but healed, returning to innocence, remembering worthiness. The being stood, walked to the crystal they'd retrieved earlier. Fear is just frozen love. When a child believes they're not loved, that pain freezes, becomes fear, creates protective patterns. Adult you is still that child, still trying to prove, still trying to earn what's freely given. How do I stay healed? Practice. Every time fear arises, you pause. Ask, what old wound is this triggering? What young part of me needs reassurance? And then you give it. You parent yourself the way you needed to be parented. Ethan stood, walked to the mirror, looked at his reflection, saw himself differently. Not the broken soldier, not the worthless child. Just a man, human, imperfect, loved. This is the healing Jesus offered, the being said. Not salvation from hell. Salvation from the hell of believing you're separate from love. You never were. You just forgot. And now I remember. Now you remember. And remembering, that's grace. That's resurrection. That's the kingdom of heaven opening inside you. Ethan touched his chest. The warmth still pulsed there. Real, undeniable, permanent. Fear taught you to protect yourself. The being continued. Love teaches you that you don't need protection. Because you're already whole, already safe, already held by something so vast, so loving, so infinite that nothing can truly harm you. Not even death, especially not death. Death is just transition, consciousness moving from one form to another. Jesus proved this. You are eternal, always have been, always will be. Ethan felt peace settle over him, deep, abiding, unshakable, the kind of peace that surpasses understanding, because it doesn't come from circumstances. It comes from knowing who you really are, divine, loved, whole. And once you know that, really know it, fear loses all power. The ice melts, the prison opens, and you walk out into light, free at last. Over the following days, the being shared more about its mission. Why it came. Why now? Why Ethan? They sat in the observation room, the Antarctic sun barely rising above the horizon. Perpetual twilight. Our civilization has been watching yours for millennia, the being began. Not to interfere, not to control, but to witness, to support from a distance, to wait for the moment humanity would be ready. Ready for what? To remember, to evolve, to make the leap from fear-based consciousness to love-based consciousness. It's happened on countless worlds. Always the same pattern, always the same choice. Ethan listened, still getting used to the idea that Earth wasn't alone, that humanity wasn't the center of everything. Jesus was part of this. The being continued, not the only one. Throughout your history, teachers have come, Buddha, Krishna, Mohammed, Lao Tzu, all bringing the same message in different languages, all pointing to the same truth, that we're divine, that you're divine having human experience. That love is the fundamental force of the universe. That consciousness creates reality, that you're all connected to each other, to us, to the source that creates everything. The being projected images, planets, civilizations, beings of different forms all gathered around the same light. We're all students in the same school, it said, just in different grades. Your planet is graduating from kindergarten to first grade, from survival consciousness to unity consciousness. Doesn't feel like it. Feels like we're falling apart. That's how evolution looks at first. The old structures collapse before the new ones emerge. Your religions are dying. Your governments are failing. Your economic systems are unsustainable because they were all built on fear, on scarcity, on separation. So what comes next? Systems built on love, on abundance, on unity. But that only happens when enough individuals make the shift internally. You can't build love-based civilization with fear-based humans. Ethan thought about that. Made sense. How many need to shift? Not as many as you'd think. Consciousness isn't democratic, it's exponential. One awakened person affects thousands, 10 affect millions, 100 affect billions. You don't need majority, just critical mass. And we're close? Closer than you've ever been. That's why I'm here. Why others are appearing. Not to save you, you don't need saving. But to remind you, to reflect back what you've forgotten, to be living proof that you're not alone. The being touched the crystal. It glowed softly. Every star is a school, it said. Every planet a classroom. Souls incarnate across the cosmos, learning, growing, evolving. Earth is one of the most challenging schools. Dense, physical, forgetful. You come here to learn through experience what you already know in spirit. That's why life is so hard. Life is hard because you forget who you are. You believe the illusion. You think you're the body, the personality, the story, but you're not. You're the consciousness experiencing those things, the divine observing itself through infinite perspectives. Ethan felt his mind expanding, struggling to hold concepts this large. Jesus understood this perfectly. The being continued. He knew he was consciousness inhabiting flesh, playing the role of teacher, demonstrating what's possible when you remember your true nature. The miracles. Not miracles, natural abilities of awakened consciousness. He walked on water by knowing matter responds to thought. He healed by knowing cells reorganize according to frequency. He multiplied food by knowing abundance is the natural state when you trust source. Why can't we do that? Because you don't believe you can. Belief is everything. Jesus said it constantly. According to your faith it is done. Not according to his power. According to their faith. He was showing them, you have this power too. You just have to believe. The being turned to face Ethan directly. That's my mission here. To help you remember. To activate the dormant codes in your DNA. To reconnect you with your divine nature. So you can go into the world and do the same for others. Me? I'm nobody. That's perfect. Jesus chose fishermen, not priests. Broken people, not perfect ones. Because broken people know they need healing. Perfect people think they're already there. Ethan smiled. I'm definitely broken. You were, not anymore. You're healing, awakening, becoming who you always were beneath the wounds. The being placed a hand on Ethan's forehead. Warmth, energy, light pouring in. I'm transferring information directly, not words, frequencies, understandings that bypass mind and go straight to soul. You won't remember all of it consciously, but you'll know it when you need it. Ethan felt something downloading, like information being installed in his being. Sacred geometry, quantum physics, universal laws, the technology of consciousness, all of it flowing in, integrating. When the being removed its hand, Ethan gasped. What was that? The Christ codes, the same frequencies Jesus carried, the blueprint for fully awakened human consciousness. They've been dormant in your species, waiting for the right moment to activate. Why now? Because now is when humanity needs them most. You're facing extinction or evolution. No middle ground. Either you wake up collectively and choose love, or you destroy yourselves through fear. That's terrifying. That's freedom. For the first time in your history, you're conscious enough to choose. Previous generations didn't have that luxury. They were too asleep, too controlled, too afraid. But your generation, you're waking up, questioning, refusing to accept the old lies. The being walked to the window, looked out at the frozen landscape. This place, Antarctica, it's symbolic. Frozen, preserved, waiting, like human consciousness. Frozen in fear, preserved in forgetting, waiting for warmth, waiting for love, waiting to melt and flow and remember what water really is. And I'm the warmth. You're becoming it. The fire inside you, the Christ consciousness, it's igniting. And soon, you'll carry it out of this frozen place, back into the world, where it will spread, person to person, heart to heart, until the ice everywhere begins to melt. Ethan felt the truth of it, the purpose, the mission. He wasn't just being healed for himself. He was being healed so he could heal others. Not through preaching, through presence. Not through teaching, through being. You are the second coming, the being said softly. Not you alone, but you as part of the awakening humanity. Christ returning through every healed heart, every opened mind, every soul choosing love over fear. Ethan looked at his hands. Ordinary hands, human hands. But he felt it now. The power, the potential, the divine spark. Go into the world, the being said, and set it on fire with love. And Ethan knew he would. The messenger had delivered the message. Now it was time to become the message. Morning of the 7th day. Ethan woke knowing something had changed. The air felt different, charged. He found the being standing in the main chamber, the crystal beside it glowing brighter than ever. It's time, the being said. Time for what? For me to leave. For you to begin. Ethan's chest tightened. He'd known this was coming, but knowing didn't make it easier. I'm not ready. You're more ready than you think, and you won't be alone. I'm leaving you the crystal. It contains everything you need. Frequencies, information, guidance. When you need help, hold it. Listen. You'll know what to do. Where will you go? Back to my ship, then to others who are ready. There are more like you across the planet. Waking up, remembering, being activated. We're working with all of them. The being moved toward the exit tunnel. Ethan followed. What do I do now? Where do I go? Home. Back to America. Find the others who are frozen in fear like you were. The veterans, the broken, the ones who think they're beyond hope. Show them what's possible. How? By being living proof. By radiating peace they can feel. By loving without judgment. By seeing the divine in them even when they can't see it themselves. They reached the surface. The wind had stopped. The sky was clear, stars visible even in the dim daylight. And there, emerging from beneath the ice, a craft, not mechanical, organic, like it was grown rather than built. Crystalline, luminous, beautiful beyond words. Ethan stared, speechless. This is how I came, the being said. How we all come. Vessels of consciousness. Living ships. Technology and biology merged. What you call UFOs, they're not machines. They're extensions of their pilots. Thought responsive. Love powered. The craft settled on the ice. A doorway opened. Light spilled out. Will I see you again? In this form? Probably not. But you'll feel me. In moments of doubt, you'll remember these conversations. In moments of fear, you'll feel the warmth. In moments of confusion, you'll hear my voice, reminding you who you are. The being touched Ethan's face gently. You were lost in the ice, it said. Now you're found. You were frozen in fear. Now you're melting into love. You were dead in spirit. Now you're resurrected in truth. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Live it. Be it. Share it. That's all the thanks I need. The being started toward the craft, paused, turned back. One last thing. About Jesus. About the second coming. People are waiting for him to return in the sky, to judge, to save, to fix everything. But that's not how it works. How does it work? He returns through you. Every time you forgive, he's there. Every time you love unconditionally, he's there. Every time you see past the illusion to the divine in another person, he's there. The second coming isn't an event. It's a frequency, and you're broadcasting it now. Ethan felt tears building. So when people ask when Jesus is coming back, tell them he never left. He's in every act of compassion, every moment of grace, every choice for love over fear. He's not coming back someday. He's here now, in you, in everyone who chooses to remember. The being smiled one last time. The Christ consciousness is contagious. You caught it. Now spread it. It entered the craft. The door sealed. The vessel lifted, silent, graceful, rising into the Antarctic sky. Ethan watched until it disappeared among the stars. Then he stood alone in the silence. But not really alone. Not anymore. He could feel it. The presence. The warmth. The knowing. God wasn't distant. Wasn't separate. Wasn't waiting in heaven to judge. God was here. Now. In this moment. In his breath. In his heartbeat. In the love flowing through him. Jesus wasn't coming back. Jesus had never left. And now, through Ethan and countless others like him, Christ consciousness was returning to earth. Not through one person. Through all people choosing to wake up. Not through religion. Through resurrection of the heart. Not through belief. Through becoming. Ethan picked up the crystal. It pulsed warmly in his hands. He turned toward the station, toward his gear, toward the life waiting beyond this frozen place. His mission was clear. Find the frozen ones, the broken soldiers, the traumatized souls, the people who thought God had abandoned them. Show them the truth, not through preaching, through presence, not through words, through warmth, not through fixing, through reflecting their own divinity back to them until they remembered. He packed his things, made arrangements for transport back to civilization. But he wasn't the same man who'd come here 6 months ago. That man was dead. This man, the one leaving, was resurrected, born again not into religion, but into reality, into love, into truth, into the understanding that he was never separate from God. None of them were. They'd just forgotten. And now, one by one, they would remember. The ice was melting, the warmth was spreading, and Christ, the frequency, not the person, was returning. Through every healed heart, every opened mind, every soul choosing love. The second coming wasn't someday. It was today. It was now. It was this. And Ethan Ward, ex-soldier, broken man, lost soul, was carrying the fire back into the world to set it ablaze with love. 3 months later, Anchorage, Alaska. Ethan stood in a small community center, folding chairs arranged in a circle, coffee brewing in the corner, evening light filtering through dusty windows. 7 men sat waiting, all veterans, all carrying the weight of war in their eyes. He knew that look. He'd worn it himself. "Thanks for coming," Ethan said simply. "I know it's not easy." A guy in his 30s shifted uncomfortably. "My wife made me, said I needed to talk to someone." Others nodded. Similar stories. Spouses worried, friends concerned, VA counselors suggesting group therapy. Nobody really wanted to be here. Ethan understood that too. "I'm not a therapist," he said. "Not a preacher. Not here to fix you or save you or tell you what to do." "Then why are we here?" An older man, Vietnam era, skeptical eyes. "Because I was where you are, and someone showed me something that changed everything. I want to share it, that's all." He sat down, part of the circle, not above them, with them. "I stopped believing in God 7 years ago," Ethan began. "My best friend died in my arms. I prayed harder than I've ever prayed. God didn't answer, or so I thought." Heads nodded. They'd all been there. Foxhole prayers unanswered, brothers lost, faith shattered. "I spent years angry, guilty, frozen. Went to Antarctica to hide from the world, from myself, from God, and that's where everything changed." He didn't tell them about the being, not yet, too much too fast. Instead, he talked about the ice, the isolation, the moment he realized he'd been running his whole life. "I thought God abandoned me," Ethan said. "But the truth is, I abandoned God. I shut the door, built walls, froze my heart because feeling was too painful." A younger guy spoke up. "So what? You found Jesus again? That's the answer? Not the way you think. Not religion, not rules, not church. Something different, something real." The skeptical Vietnam vet leaned forward. "What's that?" "Understanding that you're not broken, you're not damaged goods, you're not beyond saving. You're already whole, already loved, already worthy. You just forgot." Silence. Then the young guy laughed bitterly. "That's bullshit. You don't know what I did over there." "You're right. I don't know your specific story, but I know mine. And I know that shame, that guilt, that belief that you're unforgivable. It's a lie we tell ourselves, a lie that keeps us frozen." Ethan stood, walked to the window. "I learned something in Antarctica, from someone who understood consciousness better than anyone I've ever met. They told me fear is just frozen love. When you believe you're not worthy of love, that pain freezes, becomes fear, creates walls, and you spend your life proving what you already believe about yourself. So what's the answer?" The wife-mandated guy. "Genuine curiosity now. Stop fighting yourself. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop earning worthiness. You already have it. You were born with it. Nothing you did in war changed that. Nothing you'll ever do can change that." "That's not what the church taught me," the Vietnam vet said. "I know. They taught you that you're a sinner, that you need saving, that you have to believe the right things and do the right things, or God will punish you. But what if that's wrong? What if God isn't up there judging, but right here loving?" Ethan turned to face them. "Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you. Not someday when you die. Now. Here. Inside you. He was teaching that you're divine, that God isn't separate, that love is your natural state. Fear is what you learned. The room felt different, warmer, charged with something. I'm not asking you to believe me, Ethan continued. I'm asking you to try something. Close your eyes. They hesitated. Then, slowly, complied. Think about the worst thing you did in war. The thing that haunts you, that makes you believe you're unforgivable. Got it? Uncomfortable shifting. But they stayed with it. Now feel it. Don't push it away. Don't justify it. Just feel the pain, the shame, the guilt. Several men's faces contorted. One started crying silently. Good. Now I want you to imagine yourself as a child. Before war, before trauma, before you believed you were broken. Can you see that kid? Nods. That kid is still in there. Still pure. Still innocent. Still worthy. The war didn't destroy that kid. It just buried him under pain. And now, right now, adult you is going to do something for that child you never got to do for yourself. Ethan's voice softened. Tell that kid you're loved. Not because of what you do, because of what you are. Divine, sacred, whole. Tell that kid I see you. I love you. I forgive you. You're safe now. The crying increased. Not just one man, several. Something was breaking, melting, shifting. Ethan let them sit with it. No rushing, no fixing, just holding space. After several minutes, he spoke again. You can open your eyes. They did. Changed. Something in their faces different, softer. What was that? The young guy asked. Healing. Real healing. Not covering the wound. Not pretending it doesn't exist, but actually feeling it, accepting it, loving yourself through it. The Vietnam vet wiped his eyes. I haven't cried in 40 years. Because you froze it. We all did. That's how we survived. But surviving isn't living. Living requires thawing, feeling, becoming human again. The wife-mandated guy stood, walked over to Ethan, hugged him. No words, just connection. One by one, the others joined. A circle of broken men, holding each other, crying, healing. This was it. This was the mission. Not preaching. Presence, not teaching. Being, not fixing, reflecting. Showing traumatized souls that they're still worthy, still loved, still divine. When the meeting ended, every man asked when they could come back. Ethan smiled. Next week, same time. Bring someone who needs this, someone who's frozen, someone who forgot they're loved. They nodded, understanding. The fire was spreading, one heart at a time, one thawed soul at a time, one remembered truth at a time. Jesus wasn't coming back in the clouds. He was coming back through this, through men choosing to heal, through warriors becoming peacemakers, through frozen hearts melting into love. And Ethan, once lost, once broken, once dead inside, was finally alive, finally free, finally doing what he was meant to do, not fighting wars outside, but ending the war inside, and helping others do the same. The crystal pulsed warmly in his pocket. The being's voice echoed in his heart. Now you understand. Now you remember. Now you become. And he was becoming. Every single day. More love, less fear, more truth, less lies, more Christ, less ego. The resurrection was happening. Not someday. Right now. In this room. In these hearts. In this moment. And it was just the beginning. 6 months after that first meeting. The group had grown to 35 men. Then women joined. Then families. The small community center became too small. They moved to a church basement. Then a school gymnasium. Word spread. Not through advertising. Through transformation. People saw the change in the veterans, the peace, the presence, the light in their eyes. And they wanted it too. Ethan never promoted it. Never claimed to be special. Never positioned himself as guru or leader. He was just a man who remembered, and helped others remember too. That Tuesday evening he arrived early, set up chairs, made coffee, the ritual grounding him. A woman approached, mid-40s, professional clothes, nervous energy. Are you Ethan? I am. I'm Sarah. I don't know if I belong here. I'm not a veteran, but someone told me this place helps people who feel far from God. Ethan smiled. You belong. Sit anywhere. The room filled. Veterans, spouses, students, business people, homeless folks, rich and poor, young and old, all frozen in different ways, all seeking the same warmth. Ethan began the way he always did, simple, direct, real. 7 months ago, I didn't believe in anything. Thought God abandoned me. Thought I was broken beyond repair. Thought my life was over at 45. I was wrong about all of it. He walked slowly around the circle. Someone taught me that we confuse religion with relationship, rules with connection, belief with knowing, and that confusion keeps us separated from what we're seeking. What are we seeking? Someone asked. Ourselves, our true selves, the divine consciousness that we are beneath all the pain and programming and fear. Jesus called it the kingdom within. Buddha called it enlightenment. Different words, same truth. Sarah raised her hand tentatively, but I was taught that we're sinners, that we need saving, that without Jesus' sacrifice, we're condemned. Ethan nodded. I was taught that too, and here's what I learned. It's not completely wrong, just incomplete, misunderstood. He sat down, met her eyes. You do need saving, but not from hell, from the hell of believing you're separate from God, from the torture of thinking you're unworthy, from the prison of fear that keeps you from experiencing the love that's always been here. And Jesus? Jesus demonstrated what happens when a human fully remembers they're divine. He showed what's possible when you operate from love instead of fear, when you trust instead of doubt, when you know, really know, that you're connected to infinite source. An older man spoke up. Vietnam vet. Been coming for months. I used to think Jesus was coming back to judge us all, to separate sheep from goats, to punish sinners and reward believers. Now I don't know what to think. What if he's not coming back because he never left? Ethan said. What if Christ isn't a person but a frequency, a state of consciousness? And every time someone chooses forgiveness over revenge, Christ is there. Every time someone loves without condition, Christ is there. Every time fear dissolves into trust, Christ returns. The room went quiet. People processing. The second coming isn't an event, Ethan continued. It's an awakening, happening right now, in hearts all over the planet. People remembering who they are, choosing love, becoming living expressions of divine consciousness. That's the return. That's the resurrection. Not someday. Today. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I felt so alone, so separate, like God was up there somewhere and I was down here, unworthy, unable to reach him. That's the illusion, the lie we've all believed. God isn't up there. God is in here. Ethan touched his chest. In your breath, your heartbeat, your consciousness. You are God experiencing itself as Sarah, having Sarah's life, learning through Sarah's journey. That sounds blasphemous, only to religion that needs you powerless. But Jesus said it clearly, you are God's, not metaphorically, literally, made of the same substance, same consciousness, same creative force. You just forgot. And forgetting, that's the only sin, the only separation, the only hell. He stood, walked to the center of the circle. Close your eyes. All of you. They did. Trust building over months of meetings. Feel your heartbeat. Silence. Presence. Attention turning inward. That rhythm, it's not random. It's not mechanical. It's the pulse of the divine expressing as you. Every beat, God saying, I am here, I am you, I am alive as this moment. People's breathing deepened, synchronized. Now feel the air entering your lungs. That's God breathing, God experiencing breath through your body, God living as you. You're not separate from the divine. You are the divine having human experience. Someone gasped. Someone else started crying softly. This is prayer, not asking for things, not begging for help, but remembering, knowing, feeling the truth of what you are. Divine consciousness, eternal, loved, whole, always have been, always will be. The energy in the room shifted. Tangible, real, love pouring through opened hearts. Jesus taught this. Buddha taught this. Every awakened being throughout history taught this. Not religion, remembering, not belief, being, not faith in something outside, faith in what's inside. Ethan opened his eyes. They were glowing with tears and light. You don't need me. You don't need this group. You don't need church or temple or mosque. You just need to remember. And once you do, once you really do, everything changes. He pulled the crystal from his pocket. It pulsed with soft blue light. I was given a gift in Antarctica, knowledge, frequency, truth, and now I pass it to you. Not through this crystal, through presence, through love, through being willing to see the divine in you even when you can't see it yourself. Sarah stood, walked to him, touched the crystal. Warmth flooded through her. Her face transformed, radiant. I feel it, she whispered. I feel God, not out there, in here. It's real. It's so real. Others came forward, one by one, touching the crystal, feeling the frequency, remembering. And Ethan held space, radiated love, reflected their divinity back to them. This was the mission. This was the second coming, not through one person, through all people, not through religion, through resurrection of hearts, not through waiting, through awakening now. The ice had melted, the fire was spreading, Christ consciousness was returning, and Ethan Ward, ex-soldier, broken man, messenger, was finally home, not in a place, in a state, not in heaven someday, in presence now, not separate from God, one with God, always had been, just forgot, and now, through him and countless others, humanity was remembering. The war was over. The frozen time was ending. Love had won, not because it fought, but because it never left. It just waited, patient, eternal, infinite, for humanity to stop running, to turn around, to come home. And home was never a place. Home was remembering who you've always been, divine, loved, whole, Christ, not as a person outside you, but as consciousness inside you, always present, always available, always here, now.